house should be a sanctuary, a place where you and your family can find peace, warmth, and safety. But what happens when that sanctuary is violated? Not by a person, but by something else. Something ancient, malevolent, and insatiably hungry for your life. Welcome to Residual Fear, where the shadows are never quite empty and the past never truly stays buried. In this story, we unearth a legend. A story so chilling, it still sends a shudder down the spine of anyone who dares speak its name. This is the tale of the Smurl family and the twisted darkness that took root in their home in the small, quiet town of Pittston, Pennsylvania. This isn't a campfire story. It's an archive of pure, inexplicable terror. In 1973, Jack and Janet Smurl bought a modest duplex on a quiet street in West Pittston, Pennsylvania. They were a typical American family, raising 4 daughters in a home they shared with Jack's parents, John and Mary Smurl, in the attached unit. The duplex, with its neat lawn and welcoming porch, was a picture of suburban peace. But that peace was a lie. The house had a past, a history buried beneath its foundation, and the Smurls were about to unearth it. The move was a fresh start. They were a devout Catholic family, faithful, grounded, ordinary. They had no reason to believe in the demonic. Not yet. At first, the signs were subtle. A faucet turning on by itself, a radio blaring in an empty room. Small things, things you could explain away. Old plumbing, a faulty wire. But over time, the inexplicable became undeniable. The sounds began. Disembodied footsteps from the second floor when everyone was downstairs. A scratching dash, long, gnarled claws. From inside the walls, they searched, but found nothing. The atmosphere in the house began to change. The air grew thick, heavy. A dread settled over them. Like a shroud, the temperature would plummet. An unnatural cold, untouched by heaters. A foul stench, a mix of sulfur and rot, would waft through the halls, burn their nostrils, and then vanish, leaving only confusion and fear. Even Jack's parents, John and Mary, living next door, began to experience the same things. What once was a home of laughter and shared meals became a fortress of terror. The Smurls were no longer just a family. They were captives, not to a man, but to a darkness that had awoken, and it was watching, waiting, learning. Then came 1985. The year everything changed. The entity shed its disguise. No more flickering lights. No more scratches. Now, it attacked. Physically. The TV exploded with a bang. Furniture flew across the room. A porcelain toilet was ripped from the floor and hurled into the wall. Shadows appeared, grotesque figures that danced in the corners of their eyes. The most terrifying was a massive cloaked being, silent, motionless, watching. Its presence was a scream without sound, a warning of violence to come. Then it got personal. The entity targeted Janet and her daughters. It began a campaign of ritualistic torment. Janet was grabbed, pinned down by an invisible force, and sexually assaulted. She would later describe the attacks. Voice trembling with terror, bruised, broken, powerless. The daughters weren't spared, thrown from their beds, dragged by their hair, struck by something they couldn't see. They woke with scratches, bruises, scars that nobody could explain. Their sanctuary had become a hunting ground, and they were the prey. Desperate for answers, they brought in professionals, plumbers, electricians, contractors. Nothing. The house was structurally sound. The wiring? Fine. The pipes? Normal. Their cries were met with skepticism, pity, disbelief. They were under siege, and no one believed them. So they turned to faith. Their parish priest visited, skeptical at first. But one visit changed everything. He claimed to see a dark mist, heard growls that weren't human, felt himself thrown against a wall by an invisible hand. He contacted the Catholic Diocese of Scranton, and after their investigation, the church agreed. This was no ordinary haunting. Enter Ed and Lorraine Warren. In 1986, the famed investigators arrived, already legends. Known for the Amityville Horror and countless other cases, they were the Smurls' last hope. Lorraine, a gifted clairvoyant, sensed it immediately. A dark, oppressive presence. Not one entity, but four. A harmless old man, a young girl, and two demons. One of them was ancient, powerful, and responsible for the worst of the assaults. The Warrens didn't just document, they fought. With priests, with relics, with exorcisms. The demon resisted. The house shook. Growls echoed through the walls. Crucifixes flew, Bibles burned. Priests were struck down by invisible blows. The house became a battlefield, and the demon wasn't leaving. Each exorcism made it worse, stronger, more violent, and now it followed them. Even on vacation, Janet awoke gasping, choking, laughter, demonic, guttural laughter, filled the hotel room. The entity was no longer tied to the house. It was tied to them. Then came the media storm. The story broke. The skeptics swarmed. Reporters mocked them. Critics called them liars. They became a spectacle. Their trauma, a sideshow. But what really happened? The Smurls and the Warrens say it was a demonic haunting. The church agrees. A gateway had opened, and they were the victims. Skeptics say it was a hoax, driven by financial strain, mass hysteria, attention-seeking. They doubt the Warrens. They demand evidence. The truth lies in the shadows, whatever it was, demon or delusion. The pain was real. The terror was real. In 1987, the Smurls fled the house. The attacks followed briefly, then stopped. Their new home brought peace, and the darkness faded. But the house on Chase Street still stands. Some say it's normal. Others whisper of cold spots, strange noises, and being watched. The Smurl Haunting forces us to ask, what if the real haunting isn't in the walls, but in us? What if the darkness doesn't want your house? It wants your soul. Because when something truly evil fixates on you, it doesn't die. It doesn't rest. It waits and watches until the lights go out.